What up, Schmoedown rockers? Alright, so this is the final two matches of round 2. First, apparently, we had Rocha versus Kalinowski. And that was, well, as far as like the back and forth talking, it seems or at least it seems Neurochronic himself knows what he's doing when it comes to cutting that promo, I'll tell you that much too. And it seems those were the portions that's wound up being the best part of this whole thing. The match itself was kind of, though it was still interesting though, don't get me wrong, but it wasn't as, the match didn't live up to whatever hype was going into it, other than, you know, what was necessary to kind of have something to piggyback off of going into the live event in Orlando, Florida. Well, at least the main event, tag team title match between Corruption and Founding Fathers. As Horsemen, and there's the two factions of Horsemen and Corruption are still going, or Kurt is still going at it, and we got this match instead, even though some people would have rather tried to go for upsets, but the biggest of upsets would have been, well, I don't know if you would call this one an upset either, and that actually wound up not being the best match of round 2, and we'll get to that in a minute. So Rocha versus Kalinowski. Kalinowski kind of comes out, was first come out, then the usual Corruption theme done by David B. Shout out, he's one of those. I talked to him every once in a while. Would have been nice to have gotten a chance to finally meet him though, but circumstances said otherwise, and he didn't have a whole lot of time since he was thinking of going over to Kansas City anyway. Kind of going around places and stuff, and anyway, the match was good. Kalinowski did have a perfect round, though round 2 definitely didn't. The wheel round can always make a whole heck of a lot of difference, and well, it seems at that point, that's when Kalinowski's luck finally took a shit. And his, and he did not spin Bond, but he didn't get spinners or opponent's choice, but he sure as heck didn't get minded with Bond, that's for sure, this time around, or even anything. In fact, he wound up by the second spin, classics, which is something that's apparently more in Rocha's favor. Maybe not one of the strongest categories for Rocha in that case either, but he did well enough in getting a lot of steals out of it, that's for sure, and which is what he kind of did need if he was going to be able to, since his round 1 definitely wasn't one of his strongest round 1s. He was definitely in his own head, but he was able to work around it somehow, and take advantage of the situation that he could before he wound up spinning, going with his spin, which was, I guess, a slightly stronger category with the 80s, I guess, which I guess he chose to keep it so that he could just not have to deal with Bond anymore. At college, he definitely, hell, he even got a 2-point steal off of him, and yeah, it wasn't Kalinowski on his best game, and lo and behold, everyone including some of my buddies, including Cine Fanatics themselves, were kind of, unfortunately, their brackets have been busted. Officially, because they were hoping for Mikey, they were pulling for Mikey 3 belts. And now Rocha has that name to where he was able to keep Mikey 3 belts off of there, and who knows if Founding Fathers are going to pull off the win in Orlando at this point. But, you know, if that is the case, Mikey's going to have to be, was so close to being that one person who could actually pull it off. But it seems singles is clearly his weak spot. Teams, he's not nearly, I mean, it's clear Energetum is his strong suit, or else he wouldn't be having the belt twice already. And I think he's honestly the first person in the Energetum to at least have held the belt twice. Though he needs to defend it at some point, or at least have that on him. Something, if he's planning on having that over Rocha, since, Rocha's had it twice and never defended it. But then again, if he's going to face Smasher, I'm not even sure I want him to defend it. I'll see to defend it, to be honest with you. So, because I want to wear my fucking shirt for these freaking things again. So I'm thinking of getting a dungeon shirt so I can make up for it. Don't know when I will do that, but at some point that's going to happen. But overall, and then he manages to get 13 over 9. Basically, Mikey didn't even hardly get anything. Aside from, having basically got everything that happened in his perfect round. But that seems to have been it. And he might have gotten one question right, and it was maybe 10. I'm not even sure. All I know is that it wound up forcing he played it, it was more the fact that Rocha just knew it was, as his veteran experience, especially for singles, knew how to play the game well enough to at least make sure he was able to get it as much ahead as he needed to in that round 2 situation, and wound up winning and overall leading to the 5-point, which of course Kalinowski was going to get his 2 and his 3, but it was a matter of being able to get that 5-pointer to force Rocha to even try to answer his questions. And the 5-pointer and he just wasn't able to pull it. So for now, as far as the season 6 is concerned, it ain't a very magical season for the Corruption at this point. Aside from, having the team, as far as singles is concerned. Because now they have no one at this point in it. As of round 2, for sure. They had 3 people in, but they just, And Stacy got lucky on that one. And then once again, just kind of didn't pull it when it came to that second round. She just had one of those bad days again, and you can't have that with Brandon Meyer or this time around, especially after the fact that his only loss is right to the now current champ Paul Oyama, and I'm thinking he's planning on wanting to rectify that. If he's able, I'm guessing he might from the way... I'm guessing he might, but it all depends on how they're going to handle that. How that match between him and Bateman went, and how they're going to handle the fact of Bateman possibly not being able to make it out to Florida because of his back surgery. So let's see how they play that out. That's for sure. But anyway, which I'm guessing it could be them, but I don't know if Rocha's going to make it or Bibbs. That's the only thing we don't know. But I'm guessing Brendan was going to make it to Orlando, since it doesn't seem like Ben's going to be able to make it regardless of whether or not he wins, which is going to suck that he had to have this back surgery happen, and when he finally had something to prove on his end, or at least do well enough to where at least he'll be in the top tiers to where the draft won't be as bad for him, I guess. But we'll see how that goes. When we finally get to the final, which we now know through that match, it's Rocha. We already know that Brendan Meyer and Ben Bateman are the ones on the other side of the bracket. Now, this side of the bracket, we have, at least as far as like the left side of the bracket, and on the right side is the bracket was all this week, and is the end of the round 2, or the semifinals, I guess you could say. But they're calling round 2, so we're going with that. And then we finally get Friday. Well, we do have a couple cut scenes. I don't know, but for some reason I'm blanking on the ones. Aside from like the end one, I'm forgetting. No, actually, I know you remember. Sadly, it's understandable. I kind of did. It's funny in places, especially with it's mostly our rundown boys kind of pulling off a thing where he's claiming himself as a belt and saying a lot of the things from the rundown, but no one's going along with it, and they're all like cool with Janice and everything, and they just kind of ignore Brad Gilmore, the boat. And that was kind of funny how they, and on top of that promo, he's, calling a match with Ellis, so, which was that match with Rocha and Kalinowski. And then we have our match, and then Fridays, and then we had another cutscene. That one was furthering the whole, managers cozying up to people because of the draft situation. In this case, it was Kaiser trying to cozy up to Ethan Erwin. Erwin basically cutting the best portion of his promo. And, Kaiser killing it as usual. Especially with the way he ends it. Is that a spectacular move? Beat his ass. It's going to beat his ass. They're going to draft. I'm just spitballing it on that one. But that was funny. And then there was the other one with... and then, of course, then we got the only other promo we could find, which is the one between Smets and Jay, of all things, which is kind of interesting, but I really don't want to... The fact that, even from the chill to action portion of the Call to Action podcast, when I finally had Kaiser on, and Kaiser's... I'm sorry, I should have spoke up. It was me, Kaiser. I said something about it with D2A because they were kind of asking Roxy to fucking manage them. So I got pissy because she also kept mouthing you and all this other bullshit, and I got fucking tired of it. That's my story to that, and I'm sticking to it. So... Sorry for that, and it seems you've kind of cleared the air there, but at the same time, I'm kind of upset you're not willing to back up the D2A boys, since, they're part of your there's part of your administration for that page, for the Trivia Dungeon, by the way. Like every one of them, including Nico. Of course, you're dealing with the heel podcast, you know how to handle the heel shit. Hell, the smartest thing you did say that I appreciate was, the whole Action Army was actually trying to, first thing first, try to get Action Army on your side by say, screw you, I'm keeping what I got, and I'll just bring Team Action back together as part of my thing. As part of the dungeon. It's like, you already your main audience within the dungeon, for the most part, has been consisted of members of Action Army. Which is which you figured that out, and that was smart on your end. Even though, one of them that has been in administration with Spence kind of ran his mouth when he shouldn't have, and as much as I kind of found it funny because I got so sick and tired of getting mad about the whole situation with the Don't Tell Peter that I had to find an excuse to laugh about it, and it was comedically timed well enough I couldn't not want to laugh at it, but at the same time, I don't blame Smets wanting to kind of do what I had to do, so I had to keep the peace, so I'm kind of pissed at James for that shit, but I put him in for allowing him to have that kind of power in my dungeon. Well, I'm going to just say our dungeon, just for, because it's technically Smets and Kaiser's fan page, and mostly, and dungeon faction related to as well, or at least well enough to be considered that to get people to want to come. Though which is why I'm hoping that we don't have an Action Civil War on our hands. I mean, it's the one person he wants to keep. I mean, yeah. Although he was smart in wanting to try to bring in Janine and Silver String. I mean, it's smart to try to bring in Janine and Silver String. Hell, though he was wanting to get Ethan back in, so who knows? We might be able to keep Time Machine in the process, take that away from Jay and all that shit, even though I'm better off sticking with that with Jay, and I gotta fix this situation. Hold on a second here. Gosh darn it, T-Man. Anyway, so now the match that other than those, the match that honestly is the best match once again, Bibbs throughout this tournament. I personally think he had surprisingly, I thought it was going to just be Silverstreeny and Rocha when it came to the round ones. And it wound up being, for me because it was Throwdown, Bibbs, and Chance, because it was pretty tight-knit. And we got another one, and it's to be expected because it's Ethan Erwin. And he's coming straight off of a win at a live event at New York again, at a New York one of all things, to make up for the last one that he lost for a championship match. Of course, Merle had to play a perfect game just to beat him. So there's that as well. And it's just kind of been, aside from the round one win, it seems like when it comes to the singles career, since has kind of went downhill, but it seems hopefully things might be able to look up. Hopefully for them. And when it comes to the teams tournament, still got to fill out my bracket yet. So, we'll probably just mention something in the Facebook page. I don't know how I'm going to be able to show you unless I finally find a way to print it out. And that's what I'm going to have to do to go off of as my official bracket. And hopefully if I can figure something out with that, I'll show you guys. Other than that, the match itself, it was funny as Bibbs having one of his entrances. I didn't expect it to be as good as his round one entrance though. But it was kind of hysterical for what it was. I don't know if he kind of, I guess, went for some kind of, I guess it was a certain type of joke, and then Harlot for a different thing, and instead of talking about, what was it? Thinking there was some Monty Python and Holy Grail thing that kind of thrown in there somewhere, mostly from Harloff, but I did the flesh wound. This is with a scratch. Anyways, other than that, back to the match itself. Back to the Bibbs just killing it there. He's having pre-match interview having fun, or at least a promo thing. Cut between them and Ethan was pretty cool, and I got us. Jay's enthusiasm for swords is great. I got a sword. It's like, why does he have a sword? I got a sword. Here, Ethan. Why does he have a sword? That whole chain of events was great. All sorts of other funny things happened with him. Just, Babe's still standing as usual, and he's still chugging along. He's finally got some good momentum going in his favor. Who knows? Between Bibbs and Shazam could be that team, but we also have Time Machine, which could also be that kind of team, but we don't know. But even though I'm gonna, probably screw myself anyway, and mainly because I'm gonna stick with the Dungeon Fam and hope for a massive upset in the form of loose cannons, but that's my guess on that thing. But as far as this match itself was pretty tight. Aside from Ethan kind of having a slip up, having like one slip up, though lucky for him, Bibbs didn't get the bonus, but he did technically still have a perfect enough round one. And the round two was where things kind of shifted a little bit. Both had their own categories, it seemed, but for the most part, no steals were exchanged. They managed to get all their questions right in certain ways. For the most part, Ethan wound up with a perfect round two, and unfortunately Bibbs couldn't get that perfect round two to, at the very least, stay ahead, but instead he wound up having to do a multiple choice, and it wound up at least to the point where they tied, and it was neck and neck, and it almost seemed the way the match was going. With that one, Bibbs gets his first point. Bibbs gets his two-pointer. There's his two-pointer. Winner gets it right. Then Ethan Erwin gets his two-pointer. Then Bibbs and Ethan with the threes. And miraculously, to some extent, And also not surprising, given that what happened here almost kind of sort of was like what happened with the round 1 match with Chance. And it just kind of went as a match back and forth, and the whole thing with that sword is just, given the pre-match thing and then just post-match interview was hysterical. And Jen had to take it away from him. He's like, oh, poor little birdie, ah. And yeah, but anyways, and it came to Ethan at that 5, and he just couldn't pull it. He didn't think it was going to matter whatever repeats he had. He just wasn't going to be able to pull it, but he needed it. And I wish he would have, so we could have had a sudden death, but, you know, because it felt like one of those type of matches anyway. But, and a lot of people did, including Harloff, had Ethan, and unfortunately Ethan wasn't able to pull it this time. Just try away the cookie crumbles here, I guess, so to speak, and it was just nice. And it's, now we know that second half, the semi-final, well, actually, no, I was actually going to say quarterfinals when it came to the round 2s. And that was my bad. But yeah, we're getting to the round 3s, aka the semi-finals. And now we know from this entire thing, it's now Rocha versus Bibbs. Cannot wait to see how that's going to go. That's going to be one of the interesting ones. I think we're going to see that match first before we get Bateman and Brendan Meyer. I'll double check later when I'm, watching and uploading this, and then figuring out what the hell I'm going to do with the one page that the cool guys decided to do on most of us people who are Schmoedown related stuff. And the D2A kind of mentioned something about it in the recent podcast, so check that out. They pre-taped that, so. But anyways, that was enjoyable. Unfortunately, no post-match cutscenes, so. But, given the match was good enough in and of itself, and post-match interviews too, so it was fine. Round 2 is officially over. So I'm not too sure. I think a lot of people are almost at this point baking on either we're going to get Horsemen's versus Horsemen. Either way, the way this is looking, we have 2 Horsemen that are actually in the semifinalists, and the team that is Shazam as a whole are semifinalists in singles. So that says massively a lot of stuff on that. So, but yeah, I definitely, overall, this match was enjoyable. Oh, what the hell's going on? Yeah. But yeah, overall, this match was enjoyable. And it was one of the best matches we had, and it was just so hysterical. But yes, I can't wait to see what we get for our semifinals, or at least what we're going to get leading into Orlando event, which is, I'm guessing is going to be a live Saturday evening or afternoon or evening or something. Oh, see how it happens. But yeah, it was nice and it was fun. And yeah, looking forward to what we're going to get for our semifinals and what that's going to lead to going into Orlando. And so on. If heck is Rocha going to be doing 2 matches that night, which if that is the case, it'll definitely be saving some money on the Harloff's end and for this whole thing, that's for sure. And he's going to need it, given the recent Collider Live announcement that we've had 2 weeks ago on top, and it having to have happened literally shortly after the nuke announcement with the draft. So a lot of changes coming going into the new decade. Seem a lot of certain things are closing out, and yeah. And 2019 is already starting to come to a close, and I need to start doing other things like start doing swims, like So What I Miss reviews, this sort of things, type of, or review, Euphemy type things. Other than that, think that's it for involving our Schmoedown. What did you guys think? What did you guys think of the matches we got, the cutscenes, and your thoughts on what's going to happen the rest of the tournaments as you're back at Busted, or all for the singles tournaments? Hell, even you can maybe chime in what you might think of what we're going to get out of the teams tournament. Leave a comment below. Let me know. As always, guys, keep it random, keep it real, keep it rocking. If you smell what the movie trivia Schmoedown and Schmoedown rocks and Karen's Army for Karen Volp, aka Paul Preston's wife. Do the GoFundMe page. I might leave a link in either the description or somewhere in the comment section, and I'll pin it. And that's what's cooking.